Hello and welcome to our People to People Group 2025 Public Sector Market Update. I'm Nicole Consterdine, Recruitment Consultant here in our Melbourne office for People to People, and I specialise in public sector recruitment. On today's show, we're looking at key trends that are shaping the public sector in 2025. We're joined today by 𝐏𝐿𝐼 𝐒𝐿, Major Accounts Manager at People to People, and Peter Crestani, Branch Manager at Frog Recruitment in New Zealand, to unpack the key trends shaping the government landscape across Australia and New Zealand in 2025. Also, in today's market update, we'll cover the key opportunities and challenges shaping the public sector transformation in 2025, career development trends and strategies within the public sector, the emerging future trends set to redefine government work and service delivery, and finally, the skill gap facing the public sector and how agencies are proactively preparing their workforce for what lies ahead. But first, let's kick things off with a look at what's happening right now in the public sector. The public sector across Australia and New Zealand continues to face mounting challenges in 2025, especially around resourcing, budgets and talent retention. Over half of government teams, 55%, have seen budget cuts this year, and for 31% of those, cuts have been significant. It's no surprise then that 62% of government professionals say that their teams are under-resourced, making it hard to maintain performance and service levels. This resourcing gap is directly impacting recruitment, with 81% of managers reporting that they've lost candidates simply due to the speed of their hiring processes. When we look at why government teams are hiring, it's largely out of necessity. Replacements account for 60% of hiring activity, followed by restructures at 46% and increased workloads at 25%. Project work and business expansion are much lower down the list, suggesting that very few are hiring to grow, and most are just trying to maintain current functions or backfill roles that have been lost. This ties into the top recruitment drivers for 2025, with 39% of hiring driven by replacements and 31% of employers having no hiring plans at all. Business growth and seasonal needs are taking a backseat this year. Retention is just as much a concern, and the main reason that people are leaving the public sector roles include a lack of job security at 37%, limited career progression opportunities at 27%, and lower salary packages of 15%. This highlights the increasing difficulty public sector employers face when competing with private sector or simply trying to retain their existing workforce. These factors also suggest that improving benefits alone won't fix the issue. It's about long-term career opportunities and confidence in the future of the role. Altogether, the data points a clear picture. Public sector teams are under pressure, both financially and operationally. With constrained resources and increasing workloads, teams are struggling to move quickly enough to secure talent and are losing staff due to structural and cultural gaps. If these trends continue, it could have a significant impact on service delivery and long-term workforce sustainability in government. All the insights we've just shared and the data we're about to discuss are drawn directly from our 2025 Employment and Salary Trends report. This comprehensive report is built of thousands of survey responses from job seekers and employers across Australia, New Zealand and the UK. It looks at the latest workplace, hiring and job seeker trends and can help you and your business make more informed decisions. If you'd like a deeper dive into salaries, benefits and workplace trends across your market, you can request your copy by scanning the QR code on the screen at any point during the live stream or click the link in the comments below. To help unpack what's really happening in the market across Australia and New Zealand, we're joined first by 𝐏𝐿𝐼 𝐒𝐿, Major Accounts Manager here at People to People in Adelaide. Hi, 𝐏𝐿𝐼.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So a couple of questions to go through first. I firstly wanted to check what's been your experience over the past 12 months. Have you seen any changes in turnover or retention in the Australian public sector?
Yeah, so my experience in Australia the last 12 months does differ from local, state and federal government. So the last 12 months has been quite consistent, but some government entities are increasing headcount more than others. So very similar to private companies, most government entities are focusing on managing budgets and reducing their costs as well. So what we're seeing is about half of our government clients are expecting their budgets to decrease significantly this year as well. So what we have been seeing as well in the recruitment is that it is busier on the state government's side, and that's also backed up by the ABS reporting that state government remained the largest level of government, making up about 77% of public sector employment, and Commonwealth government was around that 15%, and local sticking at that 8% as well. I've also seen a bit of a shift in temporary needs, so where in private companies they are utilising the temporary workforce through an agency to manage their headcount and costs, but we're actually seeing the opposite in federal government too. So the Australian Public Service Commission shows that the public service entities are shifting more towards the permanent staffing rather than temp or non-ongoing roles. So it was actually reported that the non-ongoing roles decreased from 20.5%, whereas ongoing, which is the permanent roles, increased by about that 12.7% from the year before. But you also asked about turnover and retention in the public sector. So all businesses are experiencing turnover. It's happening and it's expected. But normally the top reasons for staff for that turnover is lack of job security. So that's massive right now in Australia, just with everyone feeling their own costs in their personal life with interest rates and cost of living. You've also got lack of career progression, low salary, and lack of employee benefits too. So normally to help with retention, we recommend, and it is important for managers to keep reminding their team of the key benefits while working in government. So it's not just for the new starters, it's for the ongoing employees as well. So mentioning their work-life balance, so working from home, flexible hours, all of that. Their purpose around giving back to communities, interesting projects that they're working on and the team are involved in, and then also job security in that permanent government role as well. It was reported that the industries of focus and industry growth for next year are around health and care and social, so healthcare and social assistance, professionals and technical services, construction, education and training as well. So the government's also reported there will be an increase of roles in other agencies such as the ATO, NDIA, and the Department of Defence as well. So a bit of a long-winded conversation there, Nicole, but is that kind of what you're seeing in your role as well?
Yeah, I think that's all useful information, and so appreciate the long answer, and yeah, very on trend with the conversations that I'm having at the moment with clients and candidates in the public sector market. So yeah, couldn't agree with that more. And I guess then, what would you say are some of the biggest opportunities and challenges that we've seen in the public sector over the past year?
Yeah, beautiful. So I will start with the challenges first. So one of them would be the staff shortages. So 62% of government professionals describe their team as being under-resourced. So this is extremely tough when approvals and budgets are tightening as well. So it is hard to balance that out. And then public sector managers have reported that the top skill shortages are in the operational and delivery space, policy, data, governance, and also project work. And then, of course, regional and more of those niche kind of roles as well. Another challenge would be public trust. So we all would be aware of all the elections that's happened in local, state and federal recently. So what that means is the different directions and focuses depending on who is elected and their directives from there. A huge one that we're seeing in government is losing candidates due to hiring speed. So 81% of managers reported that they lost candidates due to the long recruitment processes in the last 12 months. And then 85 of those hiring managers spend up to 2 months filling a perm role in the public sector. So as you can imagine, from the candidates side of things. So how we would really work with our clients on those is to ensure that the role has gone through the proper approval channels before we actually do start that recruitment process. And then once we do start the recruitment process, make sure that all of the hiring managers involved in those decisions are working and they're not on leave, as that would then delay the process from there. And then also, depending on the role, we recommend 1 to 2 max interviews. So we really do recommend having all of the decision makers in that interview, just to really speed up that side of things as well. So that's I guess the key challenges, but I'll now move on to the opportunities. So a huge one is flexibility and an inclusive workplace. So hybrid working, that could involve flexible hours, different start times, also around the locations of the team, especially in government. We're seeing that the teams can be based in different states, not just all in one location. So really what this means for teams and the output as well is that it really does focus on opening up and allowing for more diverse teams as well. So we have seen that really has come through on the federal government side of things, but where the exception would be is probably New South Wales government at the moment, as they have had that big push to bring people back to the office. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out in the next year for retention and also to attract new starters into those roles as well. Another opportunity, would be cross-department collaboration. So what we're seeing is, especially in federal government, is that there seems to be more open to the team members transferring between departments, roles and locations. So this is great to see for increasing career and training opportunities, and of course retention and keeping those government employees engaged throughout their career too. And also we have seen, just from conversations between the team and with our customers, is that some managers are starting to explore different ways of working. So with internal project pools, so they would kind of float around and be involved in different government projects and not just focus on the one. And then the next point would be around technology. So very similar to private companies, there's huge conversations around AI, data privacy, and what that means for business. So the government we'll focus on building that digital trust and enhancing government services through technology. So currently government agencies have invested in streamlining internal processes and improving their service delivery. So hopefully what that means is that it will speed up hiring processes and allowing employees to focus on more meaningful work as well. And I've got one more opportunity to discuss as well for you, Nicole, and that comes around sustainability for partners, as well as the initiatives that the government entities have. So the government entities, they will be making sure they align with their partners on sustainability efforts and targets. So for example, people to people, we do this by tracking our carbon emissions, and we do this through a third party, so a supplier called Carbon Invoice. So they track all of our scoring, and we mitigate our emissions, and we've actually planted over 5,000 trees in Australia so far. So it's something that we are hopefully ahead of the time, but then also other companies are finding other ways that they can, introduce sustainability methods as well.
Thanks, Chelsea. They were all great points, and I think all very reflected in the conversations that I'm having at the moment. So couldn't agree more with that. And I guess then, in terms of salary expectations and pay rise forecasts, how have they shifted, or how are they going to shift in the public sector in 2025 in Australia?
Yeah, certainly. Pay is always a hot topic. So we have seen the salary forecast for 2025 are very similar to last year. So most employers are looking around that 1 to 3% increase for their teams, whereas employees are actually expecting around that 4 to 5% or matching inflation. So it really will be interesting to see how the year plays out. We do know that super will be increasing from 11.5% to 12% in July, but it'll be interesting to see how different teams and entities can really have that middle ground there.
Thank you, Chelsea. All great insights there. So Now to shift gears slightly, I'll bring in our second guest for today, Peter Crestani, who is branch manager at Frog Recruitment in New Zealand. Thanks for joining us today, Peter.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. So to start it off, I guess, what's been your experience over the past 12 months? Have you seen any changes in turnover and retention in the New Zealand public sector?
Quite a different picture to Australia. So the structure of our government is different to start off with. We have a central government and then you have local council. So we don't have the Commonwealth, state and then local council. So it's more streamlined. What we've been seeing here is that there's been major economic drivers to reduce cost in the government sector. We've had major pushes on reducing staffing levels, and that's really impacted on a lot of what's happened with us in the government sector. So staff turnover has been really low because people, if they haven't been made redundant, so the savings were around 7% generally across government. So a lot of people who have retained their jobs are thankful that they've got them and have been sitting on their hands. So there has been, the way a lot of the restructures were done, there were perhaps, I would guess, around a third of the staff reductions were in open vacancies that hadn't been filled. And so they have gone, then another 2/3 of that 7% is gone, people have been made redundant. So staff turnover has been really low because people are sitting there going, I've got a job, thank you, I'll sit tight and I'll look for another opportunity. And because of this total change in the government sector, there's been a lot of flux everywhere in the system. It's not like just one company over here changes and then this other company over here changes. It's the whole lot changing at once. So it's been a very dynamic situation. So staff turnover is very tight. Retention has been quite high because of that, because people are thankful that they've got jobs. So it's quite a different picture to Australia. So we've had that now for the last sort of 12, 18 months.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So you think the retention at the moment is more for the job security side of things?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the stats in our market report, it's very interesting to see the changes in candidate motives. And it's very much now around retaining a job rather than looking for a whole lot of career opportunities. There is that as well, but it's about keeping a job so they can pay the mortgage and keep going, keep their families going.
Yeah, and I love looking in the report at how it's changed over time as well. So yeah, definitely something to look into. And I guess for you, what have been the biggest opportunities and challenges that you've seen over the past year in the public sector?
Okay, well, it was really hard to think about the opportunities. Chelsea was very good at finding those. So what was I thinking when it came to the opportunities? There are, because of all these changes over time, because of this disparity that and the reductions, that will mean that there will be shortages in different central government agencies. So timing, and I think now I describe it as a defensive time for a lot of candidates in the market, so they will be sitting tight. There is, of course, the AI thing, which might talk about a bit later on. Some of the things are around consolidation into some agencies. One we're working with at the moment, there's a function that's spread over 3 different government agencies, and that's been brought into one. So there are those opportunities to be involved in those consolidations. The challenges are very interesting at the moment because a lot of the changes government sector in New Zealand has been expanding and hasn't been used to making changes because it's been a constant gradual increase in their mandate and their budgets. And the changes have been quite tactical rather than strategic with some of the government agencies. So that means that they've got their head count down, but it may not be in the right areas. So you've got people having to do the same or more with a lot less people. For instance, I talked to a guy, large government agency. He took over a role 12 months ago. It was him and 5 others in the team, and now it's down to him. And that's very dramatic, and that's not the case by any means, but he's got to try and do as much, or try and keep up with what the team would have been producing at the time. So that has been one of the challenges there. The speed of the changes happen quite quickly, and because it's right across the sector, that's been a real challenge as well. Staff turnover's been changed staff morale's really changed over time as well. That has 12, 18 months ago, the public service ethos was quite different to what it is now, which is quite interesting. I've been recruiting into government sector for a long time, and it's very much shifted in the last 12 months. Productivity, I think, has probably dropped back a little bit because of all this change that's going on, and people are going, I'm worried about my job, and that's not working quite as well as they want. There's quite a bit of burnout as well. So I'm painting a very negative picture in a lot of ways, but there's still a lot of good people doing a lot of good work. The Chelsea mentioned, it was quite interesting about the flexibility as one of the highlights for government sector in Australia. And yes, there's quite a bit of hybrid work in New Zealand, a lot less remote and a lot more organisations wanting anchor days. So it might be a Wednesday and a Friday or whatever they choose. So, and drivers to get more people to work in the office. So we've sort of gone out can work remotely with technology. Now it's sort of coming back in a little bit more. And that suits some people. I think we'll get, because of the working hybrid, will give people the best of both options of being able to work with a group of people, but also often doing that analytical stuff, which is best done in private rather than being in an open plan office. They can do it from home a lot easier.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I guess just for our knowledge as well, I know in Australia, in federal government in the Commonwealth, they generally will work interstate quite a lot. So you'll have teams spread out in all different states across Australia. So they kind of have that hybrid remote element, I guess, where they're not in regular contact with a team. Is that similar in New Zealand?
Less so. There are still quite a few teams where they're dispersed throughout the country as well. So it's not the case. But a lot of the roles we've been getting recently, they've wanted people that can be in the office for part of the time and in Wellington rather than working remotely. They'll take sometimes they'll take people remotely if they're particularly highly skilled and experienced in this particular piece of work. But generally they want people to be in or around Wellington or fly in and out at their own expense.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. And I guess then in terms of salary expectations and pay rise forecasts, how have they shifted in the public sector in 2025 in New Zealand?
Yeah, well, in the contracting side, the temp contracting side, those margins, those rates have come down quite significantly because you've had a lot of contractors have been, the contract roles have been displaced by permanent or fixed term, or they've just got rid of the contractors. So you've had high supply in the contractor market and a lot lower demand, and the rates have come down because of that. We are seeing more contracting in the last 3 or 4 months, which has been sort of building up slowly. In terms of the permanent side, because a lot of the government agencies, they've had their baseline funding. So say if they got $100 million for their salaries, they're not getting any more in this year's budget. So any salary increases will have to come out of that 100 million. And so if you put it up, say Chelsea was talking that in Australia, a lot of people were looking for 4%. So that would take it to 104 million, their salary. They haven't got that $4 million to increase. So I think there will be very little salary increases across government in this next year or two. So quite challenging for people. And if you want to get a salary increase, I was talking to someone the other day and they said, look, if I want to get more money, I have to move jobs. because I can't get any more here. So I think that's part of that slower staff turnover will increase because people will get a better pay at another organisation, so they will take a promotion outside of their current organisation. So I think we'll probably see more of that too.
And how does it compare in New Zealand with the public sector pay rates to the private sector pay rate?
Well, we do a lot in the policy space, and you could call it strategy in private sector. It's not the same. It's quite different. I think in contracting and government sector has been quite high compared to private sector. I really can't comment. It's too hard because it's like comparing apples and oranges. They're the same kind of thing. They taste different, and it just doesn't work. It's interesting in the government sector in Wellington. There's kind of an agnostic approach to, well, not agnostic. It's an approach where you've got to get a good job in government. They want someone who's worked in government. If you haven't worked in government, it's very difficult to come from the outside. But you don't have that machinery of government experience.
Yeah, no, that's very similar for me here in Victorian state government, and always trying to explain that to people as well is sometimes a delicate conversation. But yeah, thank you, Peter. I'd like to bring Chelsea back in, and we can have a bit more of a chat and get a broader view and get some different perspectives across the market. So our report shows that 55% of government teams have experienced budget cuts and only 12% have seen increases, which I know both of you have kind of talked to already, but have you seen any organisations in your market adjusting its workforce strategy? Chelsea, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So first of all, loved hearing about your insights there, Peter. Excellent. And you touched on a little bit about this at the start, but in Australia, we are seeing that hiring managers are focusing on that value for money hires. So focusing on candidates who can wear the multiple hats or bring transferable skills. So that could be in project experience or change management. That's really to maximise their impact per headcount. So I know you touched on a little bit about that. And aside from FedGov, I know that state government, they are opting for more of those short-term contracts or temp work instead of perm, just to help with their get the support that they need on the ground for a certain amount of time, so for a couple of months or 6 months, and then also just to manage their headcount costs as well. But Peter, are you seeing anything else in New Zealand that we might not have already touched on?
I think with us, it's hiring managers are being more specific about what they want. So they're very much honing in on a particular skill set and experience, and anything outside of that they won't look at. So I think it's honing down and very much fine-tuning what they're looking for. We're finding very little outside of a very narrow brief when they're looking to employ someone. So a lot more laser focus on skills and experience to do the delivery.
Interesting.
So high expectations.
Sorry?
Higher expectations.
Yeah, well, I think these are expectations because of the greater number of potential people in the market, but you get a whole lot of applicants. And for instance, I helped a colleague in Auckland a wee while ago. She had 500 applicants plus for a job, and we got it down to about 10 or 12. And you had to be very focused on what it was that the client was looking for. Just because you get a whole lot of applicants doesn't mean that you're going to get the right kind of people. So they're just going, no, that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to hear, I guess, how different the market is as well between Australia and New Zealand at the moment. And I think especially here in Australia, it'll be interesting, Chelsea, to see how it plays out with the hires for those people wearing multiple hats and kind of consolidating, and what impact that's going to have on the morale of the team and therefore obviously retention as well. I guess then in terms of upskilling, so 42% of government leaders are focusing on upskilling. How have you seen that employers are working with addressing professional growth in 2025? Can go to you again, Chelsea.
Yes, I'll jump in here. Yeah, so we are seeing that team leaders are encouraging more of those bite-sized learnings instead of full qualifications. So this could be, online courses, TAFE courses. A lot of them would be virtual, those 1 to 2 day courses. So, and there is also a stronger push to build leadership skills for more of those mid to lower levels. So the VPS 3 or APS 4 level and upwards. And really the benefits around those is to then upskill those workers for then the opportunities later down the track. But yeah, I guess they're the main directives and focuses that we're seeing in Australia. How about you, Peter, in New Zealand?
Well, a lot of budgets have been cut, development budgets. So they're often the easiest things when you have to make a change. Get rid of the training budget. We don't need that. So for us, there hasn't been, and I don't see much of that changing probably for the next 18 months to 2 years. So I think development opportunities will be a lot less and will be put more onto the individual to pursue themselves. That's what we're seeing. Again, I was anecdotally talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, and all their development budget across their agency had been cut quite early on, because it's an easy line to get rid of out of your cost structure.
Yeah, that's interesting again to see the differences there. And I think, speaking to what Chelsea said, I was having a conversation with a client just yesterday, and she was talking through about how they're bringing in more training for those lower level roles. So yeah, interesting to see that that's obviously being cut at the moment in New Zealand. And then I guess in terms of skills that you would see as essential for government professionals, both at that junior and senior level in 2025, what would you see those being, Chelsea?
Yeah, so I'll start with the junior. So yeah, leadership, what we just kind of covered before, and then stakeholder communication, and also around that conflict management would be good as well. A senior training skills is more around the change management, collaboration between the teams, governance skills. So there are a lot of new legislations being brought out that they'll need to be across, and also around that policy design too. What would be beneficial for both junior and senior, so everyone, would be around digital literacy. So more of the AI, how to actually work that in your day to day and make sure that you are getting meaningful activity out of your work. Over to you, Peter. What do you think?
Well, probably it's very much similar to you on this. Finally, at this stage, Chelsea, because our story's been quite different to yours. So I look at it as old and new. So I think we'll get a lot more of the stakeholder engagement, relationship skills, the creativeness. That still needs to be a lot stronger part of what people will be faced with. And then technology as well. I think that's going to be critical, and we're going to talk about that shortly. So the technology is really important, but I think the really important things will be what we call in government in New Zealand, stakeholder engagement. That component is going to be even more important.
Yeah, well, thank you. And yeah, I guess for me at the Victorian state level as well, I've seen, especially with that lower level training, there's been a big focus on programs with psychological safety. Obviously, we've had those recent legislations come in, so I know there's kind of a push on that, bringing those lower level programs in as well, and how to build that psychological safety. So all interesting data, and as you said, Peter, AI and automation are obviously impacting tasks at the moment, from data entry to scheduling to process optimization. But what real world impacts have these technologies had on the public sector over the last year? Peter, do you want to go first?
Yeah, love it. So,
Chelsea? Either. You
go, Peter.
Well, I think not a lot so far in government here in Wellington. But having said that, there was one of the ministers has asked, and they're setting up training now for senior execs in government sector around AI, and what do they need to think about, what do they need to understand. So I think we're at the very, very early stages of adaptation of AI into the government sector. It will have likely to have huge impacts on processing, automation. It will impact on efficiencies, make things better. I think there will be a natural conservativeness in government to make sure that the steps that they make and what they change is going to be appropriate, and they don't have hallucinations and processes because of ChatGPT or something else that didn't quite work out right. So very early stages, and I think that they don't know. There's a tiger holding the tail, and they don't quite know what the tiger is and what the tiger's going to do yet. So still in the investigator stages.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to put it out there as well, is, just draw the attention between the difference between AI and automation. AI, as much as it can be quite scary, it's not to be not to replace people. It's to allow employees to have more of that meaningful activity, and also then make those connections as well. So what we're seeing in Australia in government is a lot of the use of virtual assistants and chat boxes. So many government websites right now do include the AI-powered chat box to help users navigate around the site. Mainly around the Q&A side of things as well. So, for example, Service USA, they have expanded their chat box functionality recently. So that does, you get through more people get their responses quickly, and it also just reduces that wait time as well. And another part, Nicole, you actually shared this with me recently as well. So another automation tool is used for natural language processing. So that's where they read, they sort complaints. This is the robot, and then applications and claims in real time, and then they'll actually then reroute the urgent claims to staff quicker, and then they'll be able to manage, more of the non-urgent, applications and cases themselves as well. So, yeah, a lot of new things, and I'm sure they'll be different in a year's time as well as they learn, and improve as well. But yeah, we'll watch this space for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely some good benefits there that I think are going to keep helping in the public sector, and obviously the public sector has an impact on everyone. So thank you. And I guess then looking ahead to 2030, beyond AI, are there any particular trends that you expect will reshape the government workforce or service delivery? I'll go back to you again, Chas.
Yeah, this one's a really hard one to look ahead. As I said, still thinking on that AI side of things, it keeps on improving, and it will be different from today and then, fast forward 5 years' time. But looking outside of AI, I'm more thinking around the changes to the way that we work. So hours versus productivity. I think we'll see a bit of a shift in that. So productivity doesn't always equal how many hours you're at the desk, more in that corporate sense. And then obviously around that talk, we've seen a lot of the 4-day work week. So it'll be, I know a few companies that have implemented that. So it'll be interesting to see if that's more of the standard across the board too. But yeah, Nicole, I wanted to throw back to you. Are you kind of seeing that in Australia or any other forecasts, I guess?
Yeah, I think the 4-day work week is definitely something that comes up in conversation a lot, and there's a couple of pages on it in our report. So something I would suggest looking at as well. I think a big one that comes up a lot, and I think will continue in 2025 and the coming years, is that focus on environmental policy, disaster resilience, sustainable infrastructure, looking at those green technologies. I guess here in Victoria, we had the State Electricity Commission, which was revived in 2023. And I know that as of July this year, they're going to have approximately 5% of Victoria's electricity market, which looks at powering schools, hospitals, other government operations with 100% renewable energy. So I think it's definitely going to continue those trends in climate and environment as well across the board. What about you, Peter, in New Zealand?
Yeah, I think to me the major thing for the next 5 years will be the macroeconomic environment. That's going to be the major thing that will impact on employment and employment trends. How's the world economy going? How's Australia's economy going to go? How's New Zealand going to go? And with it, there's quite a bit of turmoil, as we all know, with what's happening with tariffs, etc. So when that kind of beds down, that will paint a picture. We've been very stable at that macroeconomic level for quite some time. Now it's quite changed. So we would be looking in New Zealand for our balance of payments to be in a better position in terms of workforce leading into 2030. We've got an election next year, so that will impact on which way the government focus will be. Australia, you've set for the next 3 years or so you've got a better picture than that. So it's very much dependent on government policy, macroeconomics, because if the government changes, then the sustainability activities might be more focused on what they have been under this current regime. And we all need money to make the world go round and pay the bills. So the more money we have, the better off we'll be in keeping inflation under control. Then you've got the AI and the technology things on top. So yeah, it's going to be quite a changing market, I think, over the next 5 years. When we do this again in 5 years' time, recruitment would have changed quite significantly with technology, with the way we do things. It's going to be a really interesting next 5 years and a bit of a ride, I think.
Absolutely, but I'm excited to take the ride. Well, thank you both for your time today and obviously giving us some incredible insights into the market. If anyone's watching and wants to reach out and get in touch with Chelsea from People to People or Peter from Frog Recruitment or myself, you can visit the comments for all of the information below. Thank you both. Just a reminder that all the insights shared today are based off our 2025 Employment and Salary Trends report. If you'd like a deeper dive into salaries, benefits and workplace trends across the market, you can request your copy by scanning the QR code on screen now or clicking the link in the comments below. Lastly, whether you're looking to grow your career or build your team with the right talent, the People to People group can help. As an award-winning recruitment agency, we operate across Australia and the United Kingdom with specialist teams in every major market. Across the ditch in New Zealand, we've proudly recruited for over 23 years through Frog Recruitment with offices in both Auckland and Wellington. And in South Australia, Edge Recruitment are Adelaide's leading specialists in property, real estate and business support roles. Contact details are on screen now, or you can see the links in the comments to reach out to one of your teams today. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us for our special public sector market update. See you next time.